welcome to episode 17 of the Samurai Brothers podcast. And we've running into some difficulties trying to get the podcast going. Apparently, something happened with my camera on the webcam I was using, and then when we tried to go on Discord, Matthew's audio went out for some reason. So we're just going to record. We're just doing a private call through Messenger, and I'm having to use my phone for today. But hopefully, we're going to get through some better recording, either software or equipment, or we're gonna have to find another website since Discord is not really doing us any favors. Anyway, so Matthew, there's quite a few things to talk about today, and so the major things that we were wanting to address today was, first off, Japan had their equivalent of the World Team Trials, and the tournament is called the Meiji Cup. So they decided who's going to represent at their world team for the World Championships that are coming up in the fall. And then you mentioned about some things related to MMA that are coming up, so we're hoping to get into some discussion about that. And then the one to really close out the episode for today is going to be Onepiece Chapter 1053, which has been revealed to be the last chapter before Oda is taking his 1 month break, and then One Piece will be going into the final climactic events of the series. So we got some really good stuff that are coming up today, Matthew. So thanks for being here as always, and let's jump right into it then, shall we?
Yep.
All right. So going into the Japan's World Team Trials, aka the Meiji Cup. They had a lot of stuff going on there. And one thing I've noticed, Matthew, is that once they get some dominant people in there, they tend to stick around for quite a few years. So it's interesting to see what they have going on. So I'll just kind of go through. And so one of the things about the Meiji Cup, how they determine who's going to be representing on the world team, is that there's two ways to get into this tournament. They have the Emperor's Cup, which is held at the end of the year, mainly, and that is, I believe it is an invite based on everyone's records throughout the year over there. But the winner of the Emperor's Cup basically has a seed into the playoff that happens at the conclusion of the Meiji Cup. Now, a way that the winner of the Emperor's Cup can avoid a playoff is that they enter into the Meiji Cup, and then they win the Meiji Cup tournament outright. If they do that, then they avoid a playoff. But if they somehow lose, then the winner of the Meiji Cup gets to challenge the winner of the Emperor's Cup for the World Team Trial spot. In the case, though, that there was not a winner of the Emperor's Cup competing in the tournament, then whoever wins the finals of the Meiji Cup tournament will go to the World Championships from Japan. So let's get right into it. So it looks like what happened, women's 59 kilos was the first. So this went over a 4-day period. So that's how they ran. That's how they were running the tournament there. And it looks like we're seeing a couple of people that are representing for the first time. It looks like we had at 59 women's, there was a wrestler named Motoki Sada, I believe, and she ended up defeating the Emperor's Cup winner. I'm not sure how to pronounce this name, but she ended up beating her 10-3 in the Meiji Cup finals, and then beat her 2-1 in the playoff. So looks like she really leveled up there. But I'm also seeing that they did have a third place match and then whoever lost the consolation semis ended up being considered fifth place. Now, I think the big event here, now there was another one. Shiami from Ikuei University, she ended up beating Matsuyuki Naruha, I believe. Excuse me. And this Matsuyuki was also the winner of the Emperor's Cup, but she ended up losing 2 matches in a row, not able to go there. And then the last one, 76 kilos, they did not have a playoff, and it was a woman named Sakai, I think is how this is pronounced. She won 4-0 in the final. And she has her first World Championships ticket. Now, some of the more interesting ones that we had, I'll actually kind of get into this. I mean, if people are interested, if they want to find out more, I will get into that. But let me see here. At 63 Greco, Takeda, who was the winner of the Meiji tournament, he will be representing for the first time, and there was no Emperor's Cup winner, so there was no playoff there. 97 kilo Greco, Tsuruta from the GA type. Now here's where it got interesting. Tsuruta won the Emperor's Cup, but then he lost the finals to Nakazato, 3-3. But then Tsuruta came back and beat Nakazato in the playoff, 3-1. So this is an instance where the Emperor's Cup winner did lose, but he did not lose the playoff this time. So that's an interesting one. But I think the highlight of the first day for the Meiji Cup was Sonoda at 130 kilograms. And I'm kind of on and off with seeing this guy here, but this Sonoda, and he tech called his opponent in the Meiji Cup finals. So he was the winner of the Emperor's Cup, and then he won the Meiji Cup as well. So he avoided the playoff by winning the Meiji Cup. But in his case, this is going to be his 8th consecutive year representing Japan at the World Championships. And seeing as how competitive it is over here, Matthew, I mean, you have to be someone like a Gordon Burroughs or a Kyle Day to really be able to represent, don't you think? Yeah,
that's highly unusual to. You have to be a really dominant guy in order to represent that many times in a row. It's like in most weight classes, the representative changes from year to year. So that is extremely unusual in any nation, let alone a competitive nation like Japan. Now, granted, as we've said, competitively they're not where they used to be, but they're still competitive to a degree. So for it to be like that is not normal.
So, in fact, I'm kind of wondering, and I'll try to look back on this, because one of the things, as I've been mentioning before, how I want to build up that the Wrestling Records website, because I want people to be able to see, hey, here's all that people have done at certain tournaments, or they've represented at the World Teams or something like that. So I am kind of curious to see who has been able to represent at a certain weight class for the most consecutive years.
Is this guy a world medalist?
You know what? I don't think he's ever gotten a medal.
You see, that's unusual. If you look at dominant guys from any country, they've won at least one world medal. Doesn't have to be gold, but typically it's a world medal. You look at Karelin, you look at the Japanese women, you look at Burroughs, Dake. It's typically a world someone who's that dominant is typically a world medalist. So this is not normal for someone to be that dominant in their home country and yet not win a medal.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if he's actually. I'll have to go back and look at what his accomplishments on the world stage. But I do believe that he is a qualifier.
Oh, Romulan ale. It's just Gatorade.
Okay, they actually do have a. Okay, so his accomplishments on the world stage is he had a bronze medal at the Asian Games. So
That would be the equivalent of Burroughs wrestling as many times as he had at the world stage and then only getting a bronze at the Pan Ams.
So that in turn means that, the Greco heavyweight level, in Japan is not really great.
Oh, this guy's a Greco heavyweight. Okay.
Greco heavyweight, yeah.
Wait a minute. How heavy does this guy walk around at?
It doesn't really say, but I mean, he's competing at 130.
Yeah, but let's be honest. Unless you're like a retired sumo rikishi, you're not going to be that heavy of a Japanese.
I mean, he looks big.
Does he look chaunchy big, or does he look Karelin? Does he look more like a chaunchy, or does he look more like a Karelin?
Karelin.
Okay, so he's muscular.
He's a pretty tall guy.
He's a tall guy and he's muscular.
Yeah, he's 6'1",
which is tall for a Japanese person.
For a normal Japanese person.
Yes, for a normal Japanese person. Yeah. Okay. Well,
just that he can't translate that dominance in his home country to the world stage. I mean, because he didn't even qualify for the Olympics last year.
Wait, didn't qualify as in couldn't qualify with the criteria in international?
Yeah, they did not. He was the representative, but he could not qualify the weight.
How old is this guy?
This guy is 27. So So basically, he's dominated the Japanese Greco heavyweight since he was 19. So. Yeah. I'm re-listening to this, and it's just like, it's not making sense to me. It's just that he can't score on the world stage.
Yeah, he's dominant in Japan, but he's. I mean, I know Japan is not known for their big guys, but it just sounds like this is one of those cases of big fish in a small pond, essentially.
Yeah, when was the last time a Japanese heavyweight in either style medaled in either the World Championships or the Olympics? That would be an interesting trip.
Yeah, I'm sure it's happened, but it's probably been a long time.
I'm sure of that. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see. Hey, maybe he might have a break, but I don't know. Moving on to the remainder of the freestyle for the first day, we've got Yamaguchi from Nippon Sports University winning the tournament outright And so this will be his second consecutive year representing Japan in men's freestyle 65. You've got 79 kilos, a person by the name of Takahashi, and he will be representing Japan for the third consecutive year, men's 79 kilos. And, seeing if there's any familiar names that might be coming up. So that concluded the first day of the Meiji Cup. So going into the second day, so what did we have? In the second day, with the women's 57 kilos, you had Sakurai Tsugumi from Ikuei University. She won the finals match 5-3, and because she was the Emperor's Cup winner, there was no playoff. And so this is her first time representing Japan at 57 women's, but she did represent before at 55. So this is technically her second time on the world team.
Now, tell me if this is correct. This feels like the national championship versus the actual world team trial, which sounds like in Japan they're separate events.
They are separate events. You've got the Emperor's Cup, which is considered to be the Emperor's Cup is technically the U.S. Open.
Okay.
But it's not an open tournament. You're invited to the tournament based on accomplishments you had over the previous year.
Which, as we know in Japan, is kind of sparse to accomplish.
Well, they've got tournaments here and there. I mean, I can probably name, because, like, for example, they'll have the all collegiate tournament. They'll have the Kokutai, which is that's one of the national tournaments. They'll have the all businessman national tournament. Obviously, if you did good at the Meiji Cup, then you're invited to that. I think if you were a placer at the previous Emperor's Cup, you're also invited. I think there's a couple of other. And then they will if a third grader, a Japanese high school third grader, can be invited also to the Emperor's Cup if they won like the Inter High or if they won the All Japan High School Greco tournament. So
what was that criteria in play back when like Yoichi was wrestling?
Yeah, actually Yoichi did compete at the Emperor's Cup, although I don't know if he competed as a high school.
Okay.
But I've seen previous brackets that have Yoichi.
Okay, that's good. Have we talked about Yoichi on the show before?
No, we haven't.
Yoichi Yamagata I forgot what was he Nichidai Fujisawa's first national champion?
Second Inter High national champion, but he's the only wrestler to score he's the only wrestler in Nichidai Fujisawa's history to get not a triple crown, but a grand slam, I guess you could say, where he won the March National Tournament, he won the Inter High, he won the All Greco, and then he won the Kokutai. And there's actually not many wrestlers that have done that. They'll be dominant in, like, let's say the freestyle and stuff. So they might win, the March National, the Inter High, and the Kokutai if they're wrestling freestyle, but they might not go out and compete in the Greco.
Wait, he's one of the few wrestlers across the nation to accomplish that feat?
As far as I know, yes. I can go back and look at the history of who all else has done that. But it's very. I don't think you're going to see a lot of people that have done that all in one.
It's an executive. It's a pretty not executive.
Exclusive.
Exclusive list. Is that correct?
Yeah, you could say that. You could definitely say that.
Okay, so he what? Wait, did we meet the first national champion, or was that even before like Harasho's time?
I think it happened during Harasho's time, but it happened like in the 70s or 80s. I think.
He was around that long?
Yeah.
He was at Nishidai for that long.
Yeah, I think so. Harasho was. Yeah, I think he was coaching since the 80s. Yeah.
Wow. Well, and then another thing to remember is that he was a coach for a sport that he never competed in.
Yeah. Yeah.
He became the sponsor just because they needed a sponsor, right?
Yeah.
That's amazing. He coached 2 national champions, never wrestled.
Yeah.
And he had his golden goose in Yoichi.
Yeah.
Wasn't there one time that Yoichi at the Nationals won the tournament and then he goes and someone chewed him out?
When he won the JOC, I think.
Because that's not something you typically do in Japan on any level. So here he's doing that. They're like, "What are you doing?" Wait, he won the JLC?
Yeah, he won the JLC.
So he went. Was it at representing the? It was called juniors at the time or university.
He won the JLC in his second year, so he represented I think the cadet at the cadet Asian Championships.
When it was called cadet.
Yes.
Yeah, he was well.
I think he met that event too.
Well, at the high school level, he was a special wrestler. What did he accomplish anything in college?
I think gosh, I think once he got to college, though, there were a lot of other people that really, they were the ones who,
the playing field got leveled.
Yeah, the playing field got leveled. Yoichi kind of peaked and stuff, so he wasn't as great in college. So, it is what it is. So he coaches now at a high school.
Is it a high school that we know?
It was that the high school is kind of like the replacement for Witsukawa because Witsukawa doesn't have their wrestling club.
Right, you mentioned that. Wait, what's the school called?
It's called Kamariya.
So they didn't exist before or at least the wrestling club.
Yeah, the club did not exist before. Once Witsukawa went out, then Kamariya kind of took its place because they host all the tournaments.
Wasn't there one, like the Greco tournament that was typically not at Witsukawa?
I think it was held at like some arena or something. But I think after that 1 year, I think they held it at Witsukawa.
Now refresh my memory. Did Yoichi all 3 years go to Inter-High, or did he not go all 3?
Yes, he represented all 3 years.
Oh wow.
Yep.
I was gonna say, something I remember the Yokosuka Wrestling Association tournament, which was one of the few Japanese tournaments that I think I won. Did I win that tournament twice? That was one of the few. It's like it was very weird because I was able to get wins regularly in the American wrestling, but then when I went and wrestled in club in Japan, I for some reason had a hard time getting a win in Japanese wrestling for some oddball reason. But one of the areas where I was able to win regularly was the what's it called? The Yokosuka Wrestling Association tournament. Or was it the Kanagawa Wrestling Association tournament? I think it was the Kanagawa.
Maybe it was the Kanagawa. I don't know.
Or maybe it was the Yokosuka Wrestling. Because there was only Zushi, Yokosuka, and...
Oh, yeah. Zushi, Yokosuka, and I think like there was one more club.
I'm drawing a blank, too. I remember... Junpei was the last representative of that club because it just
Ogusu.
Ogusu, yeah. It just went downhill. I was able to get a win at that one-time tournament that was held on base, and it had both. I remember that year. I don't know why Coach what's his name? I don't know why McGuire promoted it, but it's all the Kinnick team wrestled in it. It was like before the season, but you had Shonan. It had middle school and high school divisions. Shonan was wrestling in the. Wrestling against the Kinnick guys, and then I think what was the middle school? Like the only middle school that had wrestling in, I think, Kanagawa.
Oh gosh, the one that Ultima went to. Oh gosh, I forgot the name. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, but it's a bunch of guys from there wrestled in that tournament too, and I got a win on one of them, but then I lost in it was a 3-man bracket. So I won my first match and then I lost my second match.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I just don't know why when it came to me being the only foreigner in the bigger brackets, I was never able to pull off a win. Except for that one freshman tournament that I competed in. It was just. Well, obviously earlier I had trouble winning, but then it's like even though I started winning in the Kanto exclusive, the on-base international exclusive Kanto league, I was still having trouble winning off base, except for, like I said, that one tournament, and then the Yokosuka Wrestling Association tournament. Like I don't know if that was like a championship or what it was, but I was going off on tangent. The point I was going to bring up is I remember there actually being a senior division.
Oh yes, there was.
I think maybe towards the latter years of Noda-san's coaching, the Seahawks started attending that tournament. But wasn't there like one or two senior clubs in the Yokosuka Wrestling Association?
I don't know if they were like the senior clubs and stuff. No, I think they just practiced with the other clubs.
Okay. Cool. But yeah, it was we had a very interesting wrestling. Hey, whatever happened to Doi?
Disappeared off the face of the earth.
He graduated and he went.
Yeah, he graduated, but I couldn't care less.
Didn't he start developing an attitude towards the end?
Well, he always had an attitude. What are you talking about? He always had an attitude. He was better than a majority of the people who were competing for the club.
And it was like a passive aggressive attitude too. It wasn't like a nasty I'm like some of your senpais or anyone like that. It was just
Yeah.
I remember. Well, I don't think he had an attitude towards me because he was better than me. I knew it, so I don't think it was like necessarily condescending. But that reminds me of that one time when we wrestled at the Zushi tournament.
Uh-huh.
It's like he was the middle school. I was in 8th grade. He was a middle school 9th grader. So we wrestled that one time, and he like us. It's just my luck. He goes in there and he destroys me.
Well, one of the things about him was that if you took him down, he'd come back for that. You know how there's those people out there where, they're good and they don't get taken down often, but if you do take them down, they're gonna come after you. They want that takedown back.
So even in practice, he would come back for that.
Oh yeah.
Well, it also didn't help that he was so much bigger than us.
Oh yeah, he was pretty cool. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to this.
Yeah, we got really far off track. Sorry about that.
So women's 65, you got Morikawa, Iwa, I think, and she's going to represent for the second year in a row at 65 kilo women's. If you go into Greco, 67 men's, you have a guy named Endo, and he wins the Greco 67 for the first time, but he did win previously at 63. So this will be his second time representing the Japan at the World Championships. Now, again, Matthew, this is really interesting because, it looks like Japan is sending all their people to the World Championships. What have you found out so far about the criteria?
Nothing.
I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this goes.
I've been doing a bunch of stuff this week. So, but that just wasn't in there. But I can tell right now I have enough time to where I'll be able to look that up. But it's well,
really.
The only thing I'll be able to look for is the bursts, the spots the spots. So maybe you could tell by the total spots, but maybe not. I mean, there's got to be some reason why you can take a whole team and plug in all your guys or all your men and women into the spots. There's got to be some kind of reasoning behind that, because it's especially weird because, again, Greco had the second smallest bracket and the largest bracket. So there's got to be some kind of reasoning to it. Again, I looked in the qualification manual, and it just says that you have to compete in the your regional match.
Your regional tournament.
Yeah, your regional tournament. I'm just like, there's got to be some other criteria for that. I really do think what I really do think is probably that each. Oh, that doesn't make sense though when it comes to the Greco, because the Greco had more than the number of bursts. Because what was it? We said there's 6 regions, or is it?
There's supposed to be 6 regions. You got the Americas, which is technically the Pan Ams. You got Pan Ams. You got the Europeans. You got the Asian tournament. You've got
Oceania.
I think you've got Africa. That's 5.
Five times 6, that equals 30. A 30-man bracket, but we had that one bracket that was 31 people.
But one of the things might be is that, hey, maybe there's some reasons that they just don't send a lot. They don't send anyone. yeah, it's a weird thing.
Well, if you look at a lot of those teams, a lot of them, it might just be budget. Because one thing to remember is that we're very unusual in that we don't have like a Ministry of Sport. We have all the if different non-governing bodies that are run independent of the government, whereas in almost every other nation, the IOC is directly connected. It's directly run by the government and the Ministry of Sport. So it's very unusual. We're very unusual in that regard, in that our athletes aren't selected by the government. Athletes are selected by the governing associations, which are technically non-profits.
So, and which kind of got me to looking at. So Japan does have the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology.
That's a very all-encompassing.
Well, the Japanese name for it is Monbu Kagakusho. So that's the English translation, and I think. Yeah, so they oversee development of Japanese sports and stuff like that too. Which is kind of interesting. 72 kilo men, Inoue is going to represent Japan for the third time. This is the second time represented at 72. Let's see here. 87 men. You've got, I think this is pronounced Kazo. And this is his first time in 2 years that he won this weight class, and it'll be his third time representing Japan. So if we go to men's freestyle, okay, so here's where it gets freestyle. Higuchi with an H, he wins 61 men's freestyle.
I was gonna ask if he might be a Noriaki Higuchi relative, but the H disqualifies that, obviously.
So in his case, now I remember Higuchi because he won silver at the 2016 Olympics. So that's where I remember him. And he had won at 65, so he actually dropped a weight because he previously represented at 65 kilos. So that's kind of an interesting way to go about this.
Yeah, especially on the international level. You know, something interesting, I don't know if you've noticed, but there's actually times where wrestlers who wrestled slightly higher up in, what's it called? Like the NCAA will go down a weight class or two comparatively on the international level, and that's because of the fact that A, you could do day before weigh-ins, and B, you don't have the weight cutting restrictions.
Right. Let's see here. So we've got at 74 kilo men's freestyle, Takatani from the Jieitai wins for the first time. So this is his first world team representation. And then you've got at men's heavyweight, 125 freestyle, Yamamoto, who wins for the fourth consecutive year. So again, the heavyweights seem to be able to dominate for, kind of a long time in a row, if you're seeing what I mean with that. But not sure if they're really able to dominate in terms of on the world stage, which is interesting. Let's go to day 3, just to kind of go through this really quick. Fujinami Juri from Nippon Sports University wins 53 kilos women's for the second consecutive year. And I think in her case, I think she was a medalist at the Olympics, to my understanding. Yes, the other highlight about her was that by winning this tournament, she has gotten to a 100-win streak that includes domestic and international competition. So she is the current, Sara Yoshida in terms of Japanese women's wrestling right now. Because if you remember, I think Yoshida Saori, she had something like 88 or 188 consecutive wins international. So she really dominated in that case. So, kind of curious to see how this Juri Fujinami does going forward.
I think it's still kind of interesting how, like, for example, the Japanese women can dominate at the world stage, but the Japanese men can't do the same thing. But then, like, for example, you have the Eastern European men who are able to dominate on the world stage, but for some reason they're not able to translate that to their women.
Yeah.
That's always rather interesting. Not to mention the fact that, you can't really roid up, just go and throw back to, like, the East Germans, for example. You can't really roid up your women and have them go in certain weight classes, because you remember the East German women were huge. Like, if they were doing wrestling, they would be like, you couldn't have them at that level. You can't beef someone up and expect them to go a certain weight class. So it's like, realistically, if they were beefing up it's like they wouldn't be able to beef up their women.
So 72 women's Furuichi wins the playoff, so she will represent. And men's Greco, 55 kilos, Shiotani, or Shioya, however you pronounce that, he wins the playoff. And then 82 kilos, Greco, Okajima wins for the second time, so he will represent. And 70 kilo men's, you've got Naru Kuni from, this is an interesting club name, MTX Gold Kids. So he goes to, and here's the interesting thing, he did not compete in the Meiji tournament. He decided not to compete in the Meiji tournament, and he just decided that he would wrestle in the playoff, which is interesting. I guess it paid off, though, because he ended up pinning the winner of the Meiji tournament.
Now, how's the playoff go?
It's a one-match playoff.
Okay, so it's not like the U.S. where they do best 2 out of 3.
No.
Which goes, again, back to the flaws in the Japanese system.
Yeah. Oh, so here's the name I was looking for. So there was a guy named Sakano at 70 kilos men's freestyle who did compete, and he is a coach for Nichidai Fujisawa. So, but he ended up, I see what happened here. Okay. Naru Kuni actually lost in the semis. That's what happened. He lost in the semis to the eventual winner of the tournament. But Sakano ended up going against Naru Kuni in the quarterfinals.
Now what's the background of the Nichi Fuji coach?
This one, he's an assistant coach. The head coach is a guy by the name of Yago.
Wasn't he an alumni, or am I thinking of somebody else?
He wrestled at Nihon University.
Okay. So he is a Nihon... So he is... Okay, so he is a Nihon University graduate, not at Nichi Fuji.
Yeah, just not from the high school. Yeah. Shirai at 86 kilos men's will represent 92 kilos. This Takatani, another Takatani. This guy has, he's been all over the place. He's represented at various weight classes. The first time he represented Japan, he was wrestling at 74s. And then he went up to 79, 86, and now he's representing at 92. So, kind of doing a Kyle Date there. So, this will be a 7th time representing Japan, so that's interesting. 97 kilos, Ishiguro will represent the 2nd time in a row. So the last, yeah, that's it. So that concludes the Meiji Cup. Interesting stuff going on there, but you know, just things happen here and there. So yeah, and then here's a thing that shows Fujinami Jury's record. So it extends back to 2017. So that's interesting how that goes. So yeah, that concludes the Meiji Cup, and you know, we'll probably be seeing some other stuff. You know, who's going to be doing what at the World Championships should be interesting to say. So Matthew, let's get into some. I know that you had a big announcement or something that you wanted to talk about. So let's get right into it.
Okay, so this is so the first thing I want to talk about before I get into MMA is very interesting. So as we know, in recent events, the NCAA name, image, likeness ruling has allowed college athletes to be able to actually make money off of their name, image, likeness. Well, WWE has gotten in on the game.
Oh yes, because I think didn't they get a hold of Colton Schultz?
Oh, you heard about this?
Yeah, I've heard.
Yeah, they got a hold of Colton Schultz. So I've actually looked at it. So what happened was they actually have had two classes, but the very first person they named signed to an NIL deal was Gable Stevenson.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like the prototype to this program, and it's very interesting because it's officially called WWE Next in Line. So basically, these are athletes who the WWE feels might have the potential to become WWE, as they call them, superstars.
Well, I gotta imagine that the WWE is trying to tap into the wrestling talent and maybe try and get the actual wrestling community to be fans again of the WWE.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because it's a very diverse pool of athletes that they've gotten, because you do have a few wrestlers in there, but you also have track and field stars, football players, basketball players, volleyball. There's even a cheerleader in there.
That's interesting.
Yeah, but it's... So I think these are people who they think, oh, they have certain skills that can possibly be transitioned into using in pro wrestling. So, but this is very interesting because when the NIL first came out, my thought was, you know what? It's like most of the people that are going to be signed to NILs are going to be football players and basketball players. Let's face it, those are the money-making sports. Those are where these people are going to make the money because those are the most visible and they're the most money-making sports. So those athletes are the ones who are going to be signed, which, again, in this pool, and specifically football and men's basketball. So, again, in this pool, there are basketball men's basketball players and football players. But there's, again, these are they sign people from sports that you would not think of money making sports, and I think that's probably because of the fact that the WWE wants to. Again, they think, oh, there's this possibility, but they're also incentivizing future athletes to think, oh, I don't have to be in these two sports in order to make money. So I think that's probably where they're going in that regard. And I really do wonder if the 3 wrestlers currently in this program are probably the only wrestlers making it that are signed to NILs. But let's face it, that's not going to be the recruit. It's like these people. It's like the what's it called? The schools are very diverse as well. It's almost like they looked at these people and thought, oh, this person's gonna be good. They're not going based off of schools. But it's kind of been interesting as it is because there's been talk about whether it's going to affect things. And you had Nick Saban complaining about how Texas A&M had a better recruiting class than him. It's just like, Saban, what are you complaining about? You made it to the finals this year. What in the world could you possibly be complaining about? You're probably going to be in contention again for the playoffs this year. It's like I guarantee that if you have the choice between an NIL deal and playing for a national championship, you're probably going to go for the national championship because making money means nothing if you can't make it to the next level. The likelihood of going to the next level is going to be playing for a championship team. So I can guarantee if someone really wants to try to make it to the NFL, they're going to try to go to Alabama under Nick Saban, regardless of what they get, whether they get NIL or not.
Good stuff.
Yeah, it is very interesting, and I wonder if but another thing I think that the WWE is looking for is I think they're looking at a long-term plan because, the WWE style of pro wrestling, as they call it, sports entertainment, let's face it, it's more about the entertainment factor than it is like the competitive, how it is at like AEW where it's like flippy dippy is the big thing.
Well, and I think WWE is trying to think about things long term because here's the thing, they just things are not the same for them.
Especially with Vince McMahon resigning, which is not the first scandal that he's ever gone through, but.
Well, you think about it, they've tried so much to try to mirror the days of the Attitude Era, and it's so hard to try and do that. I hear a lot, when I go on to like YouTube and I watch videos and stuff, where people comment so much. People are not really into the current, characters and storylines of, the WWE right now. It's just not appealing. And not to
mention all the big people from that era. It's Randy Orton's out with an injury, not going to compete again until next year. John Cena's in Hollywood, Batista's in Hollywood, Undertaker just retired, Glenn Jacobs is busy playing mayor in Tennessee. Triple H is retired.
Yeah, Triple H had to retire.
He was a part-timer anyways, but because
people cannot, these guys can't keep going forever, because doing that stuff that will take a toll on you.
Well, one thing you have to remember as well, the Attitude Era was just such a unique era. If you think about all the unique characters and everything like that, it was a very unique era that just cannot be emulated in any other time, even if they did. Oh, and that's another thing. They're trying to walk this fence of trying to bring some kind of semblance of the Attitude Era back, but the thing that's holding them back is they want to appeal to a wider audience, so they're still TV PG. So they're trying to like make it edgy, but still appeal to a wider audience. And it's just they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. But the problem is it's just not working.
Well, yeah, they develop certain stars, and they try to push the stars, like what was it, Roman Reigns, or
who's The Rock's cousin, by the way.
Right. Who was you got Roman Reigns, you got some other
Brock still comes in and out.
Uh-huh.
But that's a problem again, is that he's a part-timer.
Uh-huh. Who was it? There was like one
Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, they
Braun Strowman.
I know. Yeah, they tried to push Bray for a while, and that didn't really work out for them. And I think they did give him the.
He did get to the top. He eventually did win the championship, the top championship, not one of the secondary titles, but.
Oh, Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins was another one that they've been, pushing here and there, and.
Well, another thing to remember about WWE as well is that, they went and they took Florida Championship Wrestling, which was at the time the developmental championship. They basically bought it and they morphed it into NXT, which is their developmental brand, which they have headquartered at the WWE Performance Center in Florida. And again, they're trying. Well, it's very conflicting because Triple H, despite the power hold that he had in the company, at one point he saw the direction. He was at least insightful enough to know the direction in which pro wrestling was going. So NXT, as it was designed as a developmental brand, was supposed to appeal in that direction. That's why it was the brand that was put up against AEW in the Wednesday Night Wars. But the problem is, it's a developmental brand.
Right.
So they tried to make it, we're going to go to war with AEW, and I think they won maybe twice, 3 times. It wasn't that often.
Well, then you got
AEW is a lot more than just the AEW. If we're gonna pick a promotion, it's like a well-funded ECW. That's really more what's like. It's not like WCW. WCW had a certain style, and then they basically just started bringing in, the WWE guys willy-nilly. And it just became a different type of WWE. But the thing is, that's not what AEW is. AEW has a completely different style, and even though they will very often bring in guys from WWE like Daniel Bryan, CM Punk, but they also make their own stars based off of the style that they go for, and they've also brought in people from other companies with that style. So it's more like the ECW. There's some violence in there. Not as much violence as ECW. And it's slowly gaining popularity. So, the WWE just has this idea of where things wanted to go, and then because of the fact that NXT lost the Wednesday Night Wars, Triple H got relieved of duty. And NXT is not going in a good direction.
Yeah.
But that's, again, because Vince McMahon, it's like, we know that he's had times where he struggled to adapt. Post-80s boom period, things were going downhill. It takes Vince Russo coming in and saying this is what we should do in order to adjust and do usher in the Attitude Era to turn things around. Otherwise, who knows? WWE may have been the victim in the loser in the Monday Night Wars, which is kind of scary if you really think about it, the way that WCW operated. But that's the problem, is that when he first gets competition, or he gets lazy because of a lack of competition, Vince McMahon, it's like he started out as a visionary, but there's times where he gets complacent and he gets comfortable. And here he is in his 70s, and he's getting comfortable, and he's going through this another scandal again. So it's one of those things where adjustment, it's like WWE may have a very big stranglehold on the industry right now, but AEW is slowly but surely challenging that stranglehold.
Well, it'll be interesting to see, because one of the guys who really built up AEW is coming back to the WWE now.
Oh, you mean Cody Rhodes? You know who he's the brother of, right?
Yeah, he's the brother of Goldust, and then
which I find very ironic, because he was one of the builders of that company. That's like if like Triple H or Gorilla Monsoon or someone who helped build the WWE went to AEW.
Right. And and they're both, the son of Dusty Rhodes.
Yep.
So
the American Dream.
So that's interesting. That's an interesting thing. NIL going on with that. Interesting to see what they do. I can't imagine though that they'd be poaching the NCAA wrestlers before they finish out their eligibilities. I'm very sure Colton Schultz wants some of those.
I think the purpose. I really do think that the purpose is to basically help these. I really do think the purpose is to help these athletes get through college. I don't think they're going to try poaching them once they're before their eligibility is ready to go. I think they're going to help them develop and stuff like that. But eventually, I don't. Well, because let's face it, how many wrestlers abandon ship before they've gotten their fourth title?
Not too many. I mean, look at Gable. He has his year of eligibility left, and then he went out, won his second national championship, left his shoes on the mat, and made an appearance at WrestleMania. And then all of a sudden now he's like, oh, I think I'm going to be coming back for my last year of eligibility.
We'll see.
But, I mean, hey, if you want to use it, that's fine. It's just don't make a big spectacle out of it. And then, but hey, that's just me. I'm not the one with the national championships, but hey, that's going to be my opinion, and I think I'm entitled to exercise that opinion. But, so let's get into some MMA then, Matthew. I believe there was an event last night.
Yeah, there was not only an event last night, but there was an event on Friday night. So the Friday night event, Professional Fighters League 4 2020. I don't know why they always name their events like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for that season.
They're taking after the UFC.
No, but here's the thing. They name it those things for that season. There's like 3 PFL 4s. Mm-hmm. There's PFL 4 2018. There's PFL 4 2019. There's PFL 4 2021. And there's PFL 4 2022.
Right.
Okay, but anyway, so long story short, the lightweights and the the lightweights and the light heavyweights competed. Not all the lightweights competed, so we have one or two lightweights competing next week. But the way that the PFL works it's a seasonal format. So what happens is you have 2 regular season fights in between, I think either April or May and July, and then in the fall you have a postseason, which the tournament size has varied. At one point it was 8, it's now down to 4. So basically the top 4, basically you get X number of points. A win is just 3 points off the bat. But depending on if you get a finish, you could get another extra. You can get up to 3 extra points depending on what round you finish. So if it's a round 1 finish, 6 points. Round 2 finish, 5. Round 4, 1. Or round 4 is... Round 3 is 4. So based off of that, the top 4, and I think there's 10 total competitors. The top 4 of those go into the playoff. And I think there's some criterion in case there's a playoff. Oh, here's the interesting thing. You miss weight, you lose a point. And the fight can go on, you're still losing that point though. The reason the winning fighter, if they choose to go on, they're doing it for the finishing points.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So PFL 4, I believe the light heavyweight bracket is set. Yeah, light heavyweight bracket is set. So it's going to be Rob Wilkinson, Omari Akhmedov, Antonio Carlos Jr., and Delon Monte. Here's the interesting thing. Omari Akhmedov is a Russian. So in the UFC, they're still allowing the Russians to fight because they're a private entity. They can do what they want. PFL, Russian fighters can fight. They can't represent Russia, though. So Omari Akhmedov is fighting under the international banner. Oh, speaking of which, Omari Akhmedov, I'm going to make the fighter of the week because of his technical submission, because the guy he submitted passed out. Okay, so that's that. So the sole fight for next week is going to be Anthony Pettis versus, who is he fighting? I believe he's fighting Stevie Ray. Pettis got former UFC light heavyweight champion Anthony Pettis, he got a finish in his first round fight. So even if he loses, he's in the playoff. Doesn't matter how he loses, he's in the playoff because everyone else has fought. He's currently ranked number 1 at 6 points. He loses, he's still in the playoff. So, which is a lot better considering that last year, his first year out of the UFC, he didn't even make it into playoffs. So I can't even remember if he won a fight. Anyways, so that is for the. Oh yeah, did I mention that I'm giving Omari Akhmedov the fight of the week?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Okay. So and then last night was UFC on ESPN, Cater versus Emmett. In the main event, you had Josh Emmett fight Calvin Cater. They're both featherweights. They've both been around, but could still be considered contenders. They're not gatekeepers. Josh Emmett walked away with a split decision. It was a close fight. They kept going back and forth. Got fight of the night. Then Kevin Holland, who in 2020 got 5 wins. He got a submission. So I'm gonna give. He got a performance of the night bonus. I'm personally giving him my fighter of the event. That's what I do. So yeah, I'm giving him the fighter of the event.
Okay. Great. All right. So I think that that about wrap that up, Matthew?
Yeah, were we gonna go over One Piece?
Yes, we are. Just before we transition to One Piece, so I do want to give a special shout out to a wrestler who transitioned to MMA that I know for a long time. I've probably known him now for over 10 years now. But Carlos Goku Arana, who wrestled at Santa Ana College in 2011 and 2012, he ended up making the finals in the 2012 season, so he was an All-American, and just great kid all around. And so he made his professional debut at the Lux Fight League, which is a Mexican fight promotion. And,
Yeah, I was gonna guess it was regional.
Yes. So he made his debut in that fight organization, going in on a 3-1 record. He fought at a 165-pound catchweight bout, it appears, against Antonio Suarez.
Actually, 165 is a newly formed division. The UFC probably isn't going to implement it, but it's officially referred to as super lightweight.
So unfortunately, Carlos did not win that match, but I just want to give a shout out to Carlos Arana, and I know that he fights very hard. He's a good kid, works out a lot. So hopefully, get to see him sometime. But just wishing him the best going forward, and he'll get to that point. And there's been quite a few other Santa Ana College wrestlers who transitioned to MMA. So hopefully get to mention them and maybe even do interviews with them going forward. So Carlos, just know we're always behind you. So hoping that you'll definitely go out and get the W in that next match. All right, so Matthew, One Piece, 1053. What a
Spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning for everyone. So make sure that if you haven't read it already, please go and read it before we start talking about it. So you've been given your warning. So One Piece, chapter 1053, spoilers, starting now in 3, 2, 1, and here we go. So Matthew, there's just so much to cover in regards to. So I'm just gonna pull up the notes from the One Piece wiki, and I think one of the first things to kind of it's not a very big thing, but we do have a name for at least one CP0 agent besides Rob Lucci. So the guy who was trying to talk to the Elder Stars, I think, the Gorose. So his name is Guernica, I think. And when I was looking up
he's the guy with the tiki mask, right?
Yeah, he's the one with one of the tiki masks. And apparently, according to the trivia on his wiki, probably a reference to the Pablo Picasso painting Guernica, which depicts the bombing of the vast town of the same name by Nazi Germany and fascist Italy at the request of Francois Spain, which is interesting. So you got that, but it looks like there's some people...
Wait. Requested by who?
It says Francois Spain.
Was he before Franco? Because I know Franco wasn't the first guy to start the revolution and represent the Republic.
Mm-hmm. The Francois dictatorship was the period of Spanish history between 39 and 75 when Francisco Franco ruled Spain with the title Caudillo. After his death in 1975, Spain transitioned into a democracy.
Okay, so it was Franco.
Yep, it was Franco.
Yeah, Spanish Civil War was essentially a dress rehearsal in Europe for the for World War II, because you had the Italians and Nazi Germany basically practicing and testing their equipment against the Soviet-backed socialists.
Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. So anyway, but I think the people who are really panicking are the Gorose, because they've issued the new wanted posters, and they put out, Luffy's poster has the Nika picture, and then they wanted the D erased from his name, but
Bad News Morgans.
Yeah, so shout out to Bad News, Big News Morgans.
Big News Morgans.
But that's a good one too, Bad News Morgans. That's a good one too. But he really likes even though sometimes he's a manipulator, he really likes the truth to get out there. He likes a little bit of chaos. And when something's really big news to him, man, he's really going to roll with
news.
It, so.
Well, for him, big news sells. Obviously, big news. So he's going to go with whatever.
Right. So in this case,
and as we've established, he's one of the few people that the world government has not been able to get a hold of.
Right.
It's like they want to get a hold of him and make him go away. They want to hide him in level 6 of Impel Down. They want to bury him in there, and they just want to let him rot. It's like who cares what reason they want to get him. They want to put him in Impel Down level 6, and they want him to rot.
Well, they did track him one time because there was a Cypher full agent that infiltrated his, they infiltrated his organization. But he ended up the World Economy newspaper. But yeah, he did defeat that Cypher full agent. So, but
it's like that's a very interesting name because that newspaper talks about a lot more than just the world economy.
Mm-hmm. So there's 3 bounties that have been issued. I'm very sure that post-break from Oda, I'm very sure that the other crewmates will all get new bounties. But 3 big ones, Law, Kid, and Luffy all have bounties of 3 billion berries each.
What was our predictions?
So I know that you said that Luffy was going to get to probably 4 point something, and I said probably 3. So it looks like I had that one. We didn't really make any predictions for Law and Kid.
I find it interesting that they're both they both have the same one, but just jumping up ahead, one of them's is the new emperor of.
Yeah, we'll be getting into the emperor discussion to getting into a bit later. But yes, Luffy has the name one of the new emperors, but the other 2 aren't. But so I've been, I watched some other, more bigger One Piece content YouTube creators, and they're all giving all sorts of reasons as to why would Luffy, Law, and Kid all be on the same level in terms of bounty. And, because Luffy's bounty jump is really the smaller, compared to Law and Kid, because both Law and Kid had, I think it was 5, Law had, I think, 500 million, and Kid, I think, had something like 440 million before this new bounty. Now, obviously, Law and Kid getting to that level obviously is because they defeated Big Mom, which, I completely understand that. And then, but I'm wondering if the world government doesn't want to push Luffy too much ahead, because he ended up defeating Kaido. hard to tell. You know, there's a lot of people saying a lot of stuff about, well, you know, maybe the world government is trying to hide something.
Of course, they're always trying to hide something.
So,
Bless you.
excuse me. So when we get in, so you know, you get into this about the jumps and stuff. So obviously, you know, it's a lot better jump for Law and Kid. And then, you know, kind of towards the end of the chapter, Kid, because he saw that Luffy is a Yonko now, and the bounty is like, so now Kid wants to try and take out Luffy. And then Luffy grabs Kid and he wants to celebrate with him and stuff like that. There's this really...
It's like, sorry, it's like, sorry, Kid, you barely know how to use, what's it called? Conqueror's Hockey. Luffy...
Well, here's the thing. Luffy does not view Kid as an enemy.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, even if Kid wanted to fight Luffy, Luffy would not, you know, entertain that possibility. Which is funny. You know, it's a funny thing that's going on. So, I don't know. What do you think so far about, you know, the fact that, hey, it's 3 billion berries for all three of them so far?
You know, I was watching Grandline Review, and he was talking about how, though their cumulative bounties kind of reflects the cumulative bounties of the two people they jointly defeated.
Right.
So...
Well, yeah, that's interesting.
But I still think it's fun. I still think it's interesting. But I think it's probably more. I know I keep jumping forward, and you want to, you want to have a discussion about the Yonko later. But I think the fact that even though they all have the same amount of the same bounties that Luffy is considered a Yonko now, is probably more having to do with influence than anything else.
Yeah, that's very, very true. Yeah, I can see that as a
cause just throwing an example out there, you know, Mihawk, for all we know, might have a bounty that's bigger than
I definitely want to see what
Mihawk, for all we know, could have a bounty that's bigger than Luffy. He might have something that's like equivalent to like Shanks or something like that. But he's a lone wolf. So it's more to do with influence than anything else. I mean, even though, because Luffy has the Grand Fleet. So automatically, the fact that he has the Grand Fleet and he created this giant alliance. He has the ability to create, you know, alliances that, you know, everyone else just doesn't. It's when, you know, to the point where Law was the one who reached out to him. Luffy went into Impel Down by himself. He came out with an army.
Right.
And it's you know,
well, and then he's got the Straw Hat Grand Fleet now.
Well, and that's another thing. He went into Dressrosa with his crew. He comes out with the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. So he's able to create alliances in ways that just everyone else can't. Not even Law. And Law's more level-headed and, you know, is able to act, you know, is more level-headed and is to a degree probably more intelligent. But Luffy's able to do stuff that, you know, Law can't. Definitely not Kid. So I think it comes down more to influence than anything else.
Well, I calculated Kaido and Big Mom's total bounty, and it came out to 8,999,100,000. So
roughly about 9 billion.
Right. So basically, the Kid, Law, and Luffy combined is now 9 billion. So that's interesting. So moving on to some other stuff that I thought was interesting. So, and I know a lot of people I was reading, I was listening to some other people like, you've got Tech King, you got Brago DA, some other people, talking about Sabo. And this is something that I probably would have missed, but, they're talking about how Sabo is kind of playing into this too, because of, there's like some country that had a picture of Sabo up in, up
on a wall. On a wall, yeah. Grandland Review pointed that out as well.
And so they're saying, it's probably, and again, there's no telling what's happened to Sabo because of, there's a lot of hints and stuff here and there, but there's no way to confirm it without really Oda telling us what really happened to him. He could be captured, he could be dead. There's a lot of stuff regarding, that BB might have been taken out, because there was the incident at the Reverie. There's just no way of knowing them, but a lot of people are wanting to speculate on it, which is perfectly fine. I just can't say for sure at this point. So.
Yeah, that's just an unknown that we're just going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, I think it's kind of at that point right now. So, Jinbei's kind of at, he's at the Capitol, just waiting for the rest of the Straw Hats to, stop partying outside and,
coming to the formal banquet.
Luffy, Chopper, and Yamato, they're all getting Matsuri festival food, and Brook is having a
it's almost a Bon season, and there's actually a few temples up here that have a Bon. So I don't know if I'm going to Visalia or Fresno. Might also depend on our Hawaii trip, but
yeah, that's true.
Again, depending on our Hawaii trip, if you have time, there is an Obon festival at the Orange County Buddhist Temple in Anaheim. Don't know if you've ever been there. I went there a few times when I was down there. I was living down there.
Yep. So we got Nico Robin doing what Nico Robin does, but she's at an island, and she found a poneglyph and beneath the castle. But then the Tengu master comes up, but I think the thing that really shocked me was the fact that when he takes his mask off, he is revealed to be Kozuki Sukiyaki, who is the father of Kozuki Oden and the grandfather of Momonosuke and Hiyori. And, the fact that he is alive all this time. Now, a lot of YouTubers are saying, hey, people were speculating that, that he was alive. And, a couple of interesting reasons were given as to why Kaido and Orochi kept him alive. Because, like, for example, Kozuki Sukiyaki would have been the one to have taught Oden how to read the poneglyph. So, the fact that Sukiyaki can read poneglyphs is probably the reason why Kaido and Orochi left him alive, because they needed a way to read the poneglyphs that were there. But the big reveal about poneglyphs is the fact that the Pluton is actually on Wano.
Grandline Review pointed out that even if Robin had revealed that to, what's his name? Crocodile? He wouldn't have been able to get a hold of it.
No, he wouldn't.
It's like, it's like Crocodile would have had to go would have had to march in. He would have had to get what was left of Barrack Works and march right into Wano. Barrack Works was never, ever on the level of, it's like, what was he gonna do? It's like, as far as we know, Crocodile didn't even have any hockey abilities whatsoever. So what's he gonna do when he goes up against Kaido, who knows how to use Conqueror's hockey as a weapon? He'd probably get one-shotted as almost as similar as Luffy.
Yeah, that would have, now it's really interesting how Oda is really able to tie certain things back, several tens of volumes worth of content. He's able to tie something that goes way into the future back to the past.
Hundreds of volumes.
Yeah, now it's getting to that point, hundreds of volumes. So,
imagine if Kaido had found out. I wonder if that's what he meant when he said that I and Big Mom will rule the world. It's like, did he know?
He probably did know, but probably the reason he wasn't able to find it was because if you remember, Sukiyaki was able to escape. And so that's probably what happened, that Sukiyaki was able to escape, which is why Kaido could find.
I think it's funny how with the Kozuki generations, we have a food theme going on there.
Well, yeah, that's...
Sukiyaki, Oden... Yeah, Sukiyaki, Oden, Momo.
Yeah. So, then we get into, finally, the full face reveal of Rokugyu, a.k.a. Green Bull, and his actual name is Aramaki. And
after he took out what was left of the Beast Pirates.
Yeah. So,
like, to me, that's just amazing. He took out, it's like, regardless of, King and Queen being injured, he took them out like they were nothing.
Right. One of the things I find interesting.
Something is gonna happen. Something is gonna happen. I don't think he's gonna make it. I don't think he's gonna because he's been sent there to assassinate Luffy.
Well, actually, and Rokugyu is actually acting on his own. If you remember, Sakazuki told him not to go there or not to do anything. So I'm not sure what'll happen, but he's obviously trying to do his thing.
So were you the one who outlined parallels to Kuzan going? So I wonder if there's something similar going on, but I
probably another big reveal about maybe another Straw Hat that we don't know about. Maybe that's what Green Bull will say, although I kind of doubt it.
Wait, he said he's going there to clean up the mess?
Mm-hmm.
So what exactly is he going there to clean? So, wait a minute. Is he going there to assassinate Luffy?
Yeah, it certainly looks like it because he's holding up Luffy's wanted poster. So he's going to try and take out Luffy. Before we move on, though, I wanted to kind of point out that Oda is keeping up with the theme of the Admirals, though, where he models them after, old school Japanese actors.
Oh, yeah.
So, in this case, Yoshio Harada played a character named Aramaki in an old school samurai.
I think Green Bull is on a similar spectrum of justice as I forgot. Was it Aokichi?
Actually, what I've seen a lot of people saying is that he's on the same spectrum as Sakazuki, which is absolute justice.
Except that he disobeyed Sakazuki's orders, which would line up if he were.
Well, disobeying Sakazuki's orders doesn't necessarily mean that you're on the side of moral justice. He's going out there any means necessary is what he's doing.
Yeah, but why would he let I forget who's the blind admiral again? Why am I drawing blank on his name?
Fujitora?
Well, why would he let Fujitora go in when Sakazuki's orders were that Fujitora can't go into a base until he brings Sakazuki the head of Luffy?
I think that has nothing to do with moral justice. Because technically, Marijoa is not a marine base. So I think that's why Rokugyu Greenbow, I think, could care less, what Sakazuki had to say at that point.
Well, he may be on a similar scale as Sakazuki, but not exactly. I think.
Well, I think we'll find out in the next chapter. We'll really find out where Greenbow is going to sit.
Well, either way, we know he means business.
No, he doesn't. Yes. So.
And there's that theory that well, he hasn't said what his ability is, but that another theory I saw is that because he the reason why he is able to not I forgot if he said how long did he say that he hadn't moved?
Like 3 years that he hadn't eaten.
I think the reason is that with his ability, he's able to drain. The theory is that he's able to drain things, so he doesn't have to eat.
Right.
He can get his nutrients by just draining things.
Right.
Not necessarily people, but definitely things.
So the Ninja Pirate Mink Samurai Alliance starts a party, and then we see where Kid is going to try and take out Luffy, but then Luffy has other ideas, just wants to party with Kid. So they obviously are celebrating now. And let's see here. So Kid shows Luffy the article that says who all the 4 emperors are now. And like we mentioned earlier, Luffy is one of the new 4 emperors. And the thing we had said was, hey, there might be a possibility that there's going to be more than 4 emperors. Well, the group is staying, the Yonko, 4 emperors. So, Matthew. Oh, boy. Yeah. This one I could not believe, but Matthew, I think it goes back to what you were mentioning about having influence. And, I think it all comes down to gathering people to your side. So let's kind of go through each of the ones before we reveal the final Yonko. So you got Luffy, he's able to really get people to want to fight with him, work with him. You've got his crew, you've got all these countries that want to, remain loyal to him. I mean, obviously, I think Fishman Island is going to be the first of the protectorate of Luffy's team. I think Wano is going to be an ally too. You're probably going to have Alabasta as an ally as well. Even though they're in the first half of the Grand Line, and there's no telling if BB is probably okay or not.
Dressrosa.
Yeah, Dressrosa is another one. So you got Luffy there, and then you've got Marshall D. Teach, aka Blackbeard. He has this charisma about him of being able to gather people to his side. I mean, you look at the fact that he, recruited these deadly criminals from Impel Down, and then he's recruiting a whole bunch of other pirate
took Whitebeard's territory.
Yeah, he took over Whitebeard territory, more like he annexed, their territories and such, because it definitely was not a peaceful takeover. We know that for a fact. He's got the 10, what was it? I think it's called the 10 giant ships or something.
I thought they're the 10 generals.
I think it's like the 10 colossal captains or something to that effect.
Which are each one of the Yonko have their crews divided in different ways. Whitebeard obviously had the divisional commanders.
Blackbeard has the 10 Titanic captains.
Well, let's see. Did Big Mom have any?
Well, she had the 3 sweet commanders, which was Katakuri, was obviously the leader, and then there was his other 2 siblings, and then you've got like these ministries, within Tato Land. So you have that, and then Whitebeard, the divisions. I think the interesting one though was
Kaido.
I don't know that. Well, yeah, and then Kaido had his 3 commanders.
But he also had the what was the group called?
Oh, the Tobiroko.
Yeah, he had the Tobiroko.
Right, which are like I don't know what they were called, the entertainers or something. The performers, the lead performers.
They were pretty much sub commanders.
Right. Now the interesting one though is Shanks. Shanks doesn't really have any. There's still not a lot known about Shanks. So you can't really say whether or not. We don't even know if there's like any other crews that are attached to the red-haired pirates. But yet, Shanks himself, very charismatic, very influential. I mean, he can go into Marie-Joie and not have any repercussions, and then he can go and have an audience with the Gorose. He's just that influential. But there's still very much a mystery to Shanks and how far his reach is. Whether he's got these other crews allied with him, what kind of territories is he overseeing? There's really nothing that shows that, how far his influence is stretching.
All we know is who's the Luffy fanboy?
Oh, Bartolomeo?
All we know is Bartolomeo invaded his territory.
Well, I mean, Bartolomeo may know some things about Shanks if he's keeping up with Luffy. And so, yeah, we'll probably see Barto here, soon, too.
The Barto Club.
Yeah, the Barto Club. So, Matthew, which means our last Yonko, quite unexpected, but when you step back and you think about it, I thought, hey, maybe Law and Kid might be in there, and then like I said last week, I thought that maybe, hey, Mihawk will be up there, maybe Boa Hancock will be up here, but Goda, as people call Oda, with his just ability to surprise people. So Matthew, who is our last Emperor of the Sea?
Buggy the Clown.
And I think, okay, Buggy the Clown. I mean, his connection to Shanks, I gotta imagine that was a factor. His being in, part of the Pirate King's crew, and then his ability to recruit people too, because of his reputation, is my guess as to, which means that he had to have survived that battle versus the Marines. Because remember, the Marines sent a fleet of ships after him when they abolished the Shichibukai.
Yeah, but as I recall, didn't he wasn't he planning on running?
Yeah, he was planning on running. So, what happened that he was able to survive that? I mean, did he actually run away, or did his crew, from Buggy's delivery, did they actually win that battle?
Well, yeah, and that is another thing we have to take into consideration is that giant impel down breakout crew stayed loyal to him. And most of them had bounties a lot larger than he did. So he had this giant so there were basically 3 factions that came out of the I don't even know if it would be that generous. There were 2 huge factions that came out of the if we talk about total factions, like 3 or 4, but there were 2 huge factions that came out of the Impel Down break. That is the Newcomer army that joined what?
That joined Luffy, right?
No, that after the Battle of Marineford followed Ivankov back to
oh yeah, so they joined the Revolutionary.
Yeah, they joined the Revolutionary Army, and then you had the other group that are just solely the the people that jailbreaked, including the former Mr. 3, and they joined Buggy. And basically expanded his crew to like 4 or 5 times what it was, and including his current crew with Alvida.
Right, and apparently there were a lot of level 6 convicts in that group too.
And then
5, level 6.
The crew that and then we have to remember that after when he was a Shibukai, he had 2 years to develop this giant network. Mm-hmm. So all those factors going into consideration, if he survived the battle or if he somehow won, then I guess it would make sense that he would become a Yonko.
Well, and apparently he had already started a power vacuum based on because apparently, and I don't know if this was true or not, but I thought I had heard somewhere, he probably did have connections to the underworld, and he was starting a power vacuum into the underworld based on the vacancy left by Doflamingo when he was.
Yeah, Doflamingo did have quite a bit of influence.
So, an interesting thing. So,
you mean he was making a power grab?
Yeah, power grab. So, in the case of Buggy becoming an emperor, and a lot of people are like, oh, this is Oda memeing on the fan base. But basically, Buggy becoming an emperor means that this is the second former Roger crewmate to be an emperor. He's also the second former Shibukai after Blackbeard to become an emperor. But the one interesting thing is that, since he first came on to the series, we've never seen what his current bounty is. So, like
you mean after that we saw his bounty in East Blue.
Yeah, we've never seen his increased bounty. So his bounty, at least canonically, has remained the same since East Blue, which is 15 million.
Which is pitiful compared to today's standards.
And maybe Bucky was able to level up in some way. We don't know, but certainly not to the level of the other 3. And I'm kind of surprised that, maybe another thing that happened was maybe Buggy did propose an alliance with Shanks. And maybe the WG caught word of that, and they were like, we can't let that happen, or something along those lines. I mean, I would not be surprised if that might... I think it's still a possibility in the future that Buggy and Shanks could ally together. Maybe they might ally because they want to defeat Blackbeard. Who knows?
We could see 3 of them, because Luffy might join in, because he's got unfinished business with Blackbeard.
I mean, there's still so many potential battles ahead, because you've got, I'm very sure that Luffy's got unfinished business with Sakazuki, because Sakazuki was the one who killed Ace. So I'm very sure that there's going to be, hey, maybe there might be a second Marine Corps based on, hey, if they captured Sabo, maybe they're going to execute him. I don't know how Oda would fit that in the story. I mean, you still got to go to Elbaf.
Everyone keeps talking about Elbaf. I don't know if it's going to happen. I really don't. I know everyone keeps emphasizing it, but I'm not sold on the idea that Elbaf is going to happen. I'm really not sure Elbaf is going to happen.
You still have to have your battle with Teach.
Oh yeah, definitely.
There's at least 2 major battles that are going to happen. There could be a third one because you still have Im and the Gorose.
I think the Im Gorose battle is probably going to coincide with the Sakazuki battle. I really do think that's going to be one giant all-out battle of just world government against Luffy and everyone else.
And
everyone that aligns with him.
They still have to find out the secret of the key. They still have to find out where the Lost Kingdom is. They still have to find out stuff about the Void Center. I mean, we still got, even though we're now going to be getting into the last part of the series, there's still a lot of things to pack in there. We could still be seeing this going on for another, 5 years.
Now I forgot. What's the master poneglyph?
That's the real poneglyph.
I really think the real poneglyph is on Laugh Tale.
Yes, that could be a consideration because I think when because Shanks talked about it, not Shanks. Oda talked about it, I think Gold Roger talked about it, and I think, what's his name? Silver's Ray Lee talked about it too. They found out the true history, but at that time they knew that they could not do anything about it.
Yeah, and
because it wasn't the right time yet.
Well, and let's be honest, the right time might be. It's like we've talked about Joy Boy and how the model Nika fruit is essentially the reincarnation of Joy Boy. There might be something needed to activate something, and the key is the model Nika fruit. It's possible that when Luffy gets there, he's going to have the ability to activate whatever it is that's going to change the world. That's going to be able to do something about it. And for all we know, it's going to be, let's see. There's Pluton, Poseidon, and what's the third ultimate weapon?
Pluton, Poseidon, and let's see here. The ancient weapons. So and Uranus. So Pluton is the ship.
What if the Nika fruit is Uranus?
Good question.
Think about it. Pluton's a ship. Poseidon is whoever has the ability to talk to the Sea Kings and control them.
It's gonna be a mermaid.
Yes, it's gonna be a mermaid, and in this case, it's in this generation, Shirahoshi. What if Uranus is the model Nika fruit, which has abilities that are incomprehensible, according to the Gorose?
Right, because there isn't really anything that Uranus is only stated as to be an ancient weapon, but there's no real details into what specifically Uranus is.
Well, and let's be honest, we don't know why Roger teamed with Garp at God Valley. They knew something, and everyone else, the top people, know something. John, your phone's falling over. They know something, and the top people in the world government know something that everyone else does not. Why would a pirate team with a Marine who is a moral justice guy who does not believe in slavery, believes it's immoral? Could not have more of a detested towards the celestial dragons, the world nobles. Why would two people like that partner up to fight the most dangerous crew that the world had known at the time to prevent them taking over the an island that was inhabited by the world nobles and their slaves? I think something was hidden there. I really do think something was. I think something was there. Rox wanted it, and it seems like Rox might have been Rox may have been the only one who knew what it was, because we don't hear Kaido talk about it. We don't hear Linlin talk about it, and we don't hear Whitebeard talk about it. But it's possible they knew something that was. He knew something that was there. He wanted to get it, and Roger and Garp knew about it, and they said, "We need to, for the greater good of humanity, we need to fight him. We need to stop him from getting whatever it is." Which, for all we,
I'm almost curious if maybe. What's his name? Rox. He definitely probably had some connection to the Gomu Gomu no Mi, aka the human fruit Model Nika.
You think he might have been the possessor of it at the time? There's a lot we don't know about Rox, and whatever battle that was, Garp as a what? How old is he after the timescape?
Garp is in his like 70s or 80s.
Garp being as old as he is still powerful. So you can only God Valley happened how many years ago?
Over 40 years ago.
Over 40 years ago. Garp at that point was in his 40s or possibly even 30s. He's in his prime. So
he's 78 after the time skip.
Yeah, he was 38 at the time of God Valley. So what was it that would have been, so how powerful is Rox that it pushed Garp to his limits? Because we've seen pictures of him. He was battered and bloody when he finished that. He got the scar right here because of that God Valley battle. So how powerful was Rox that he had, or who else did he fight? Did he have to fight one of these other people? And we also know that Goldie Roger and Garp both are not as well. We know that Roger definitely was not a fruit user, but from what we can tell, neither was Garp. So how powerful it's just one of those things where I think almost everything will be answered by the end of. I don't think we're gonna know some things like the tall being in Thriller Bark, but I think we'll know a lot of answers before the series is done.
Well, We'll start getting some answers, I'm sure, with when the chapter resumes in 5 weeks' time. So there's going to be 4 weeks of no One Piece chapters. So end of July is when it's going to start back up. So we'll have to see what's going to happen. But we still have a lot to talk about in the meantime. So we'll do some reviews and stuff. Going back to some, just talk about some One Piece content, amongst some other things. So, Matthew, I think we'll close out the episode for today. And as always, thanks for your insight on a lot of things. And, we'll have to see what we have going forward for the next coming episode. So this concludes episode 17 of the Samurai Brothers podcast. So, Matthew, where can our viewers find us on social media?
Our viewers can find the video podcast on YouTube and Rumble. The audio podcast is on Acast, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. Other platforms to be determined.
And Matthew also operates MMA Freak, which is a website dedicated to some highlights and news about MMA sports and promotions going on. So you can find him personally on Twitter at Matthew Salter, and then the MMA Freak, go to MMA-freak.com, and then the Twitter for MMA Freak is MMA Freakout.
Also, announcement today was the relaunch of my YouTube channel. I'd just been busy starting from last December until earlier this month. I finally had the time, so I relaunched that with a review of Dad's Cream Soda. Oh yeah, happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there.
All right, so Matthew, as always, thanks, and to all our viewers, have a great happy Father's Day, and I hope you also have a great week going forward, and we will see you next week.